Hi, and welcome to this new course on Task 3C. In this course, we're just going to walk you through some of the best practices of how to compose within the kind of strict regulations of this task. Now, it is important to understand that there are a few kind of strict things that you have to follow. The first of which is this idea of sticking within 3 minutes. Now, if you're doing the same brief that I'm doing, which is brief 2, Road to Freedom, you have to make your piece 3 minutes long. There is no leeway on that. It is 3 minutes, okay? I tend not to let my students go past even 1 second, okay? Because it's very strict, and you can think about this as a professional task. When you're working in the industry and you get given a deadline, or you get given a task to fit within the requirements, it is expected that they are 100% to fit in, and that's why this project is so good, actually, because it's a real life situation. If you were working on a radio show or something like that, and you were creating a program for a radio show or a piece of music for a radio show or an advert, and they said to you, okay, it really needs to be 25 seconds. The reason for that is because it has to fit into a specific broadcast slot. So that's why they're trying to kind of make you think about that now. The other reason I like this project is because over the last 2 years, we've been working on lots and lots of techniques and lots of everything to do with music production, from MIDI, recording, sampling, synthesis, you name it. We've kind of worked on it. But every single project, we've only been allowed to use elements of what we've learned. Now, this project, you can use everything, and that's why I really like it. Is because all of a sudden, if you're really good at the recording side of things, you can focus in on the recording side of things and mix it with some MIDI, or mix it with some sampling, or mix it with some synthesis, and it's really exciting. The fact that you have no boundaries on these elements is absolutely brilliant. There are a few logistical problems with that, and as your centre goes through it, you'll work these things out. One thing I always say to my students is spend a little bit of time and choose your brief wisely. Make sure that the brief that you're looking at fits your style of doing things, okay? If it doesn't fit with the way you want to do them, obviously try to avoid doing those particular briefs. Stick with them, don't chop and change. Now, most briefs don't start this particular project until most centres don't start this particular brief until January, which is only going to leave you probably 8 to 9 weeks to kind of get from start to finish, okay? So there's not a lot of time. So if you imagine 4 weeks down the line you end up changing your mind, it's going to cost you big time, okay? So just be aware of that. Choose your brief, spend a little bit of time choosing it, researching, understanding how it's all going to fit together, and then go down that path, okay? The other thing I want you to have a little look at is the actual mark scheme for this brief, making sure you understand how you're going to get marked. Now, on this other slide here, I've just put down the actual mark sheet, and hopefully your teacher's printed this off for you so you can have a look yourself. Now, what you need to know is there are elements of this project which are compulsory, and there are elements that are optional. When you get marked, you'll be marked on all of these things, but only your top marks will go down for the optional ones. And I think it's the top 3, okay? Let me just make sure I'm correct on that. Yeah, here it is here. So optional, only 3 are selected. All will be marked, but only 3 are selected. Your top 3 marks will be selected. So melody, harmony, rhythm, texture and form. And if you look at the mark scheme, you have this holistic criteria, which is how your piece fits together overall, and this will be where your final mark comes in. The examiner will start your marking looking at the detailed marks, so each area responding to brief has its own set marks, so they may give you a 5 for this, for instance. Also be aware of the kind of fallbacks, okay? So look at this here where it says composition is too short. If it's too short, you can't get past a 1, okay? So if it doesn't fit that 3 minutes exactly for this particular area, you can't get past a 1. And each of these bands has that kind of those fallback areas. So for instance, this one here, style and coherency, the fallback on this where you can't get past it is if insufficient development of ideas has happened. If your piece is overly repetitive or overly mechanical or just doesn't have enough ideas, you can't get past that. No ifs or buts about that. You need to develop these things fully, okay? So straight away, look at these fallbacks, possible 12 marks, And without having enough ideas, and with your composition being too short, you can only get 2. The next one is manipulation of sound. Now, if you haven't done enough with manipulating your sound effects, now this particular brief, you have a choice. You can take it down a popular route, which you have to use a full vocal, or you can take it down this kind of sound effects route, where you have to use a minimum of 6 samples, I believe. So making sure that you manipulate those samples is really important, and that you find different ways. And we will be talking about that as we go through. The quality of your submission. So if there's no mixing been done, if there's no panning been done, if the dynamics are all out, if the balance is all wrong, once again, you can't get past the 1. So just be very aware of that. And then we're onto these development ideas, of which the top 3. So just have a look at these. If you haven't got it, I'll attach it to this lesson so you can download this and tick it off for yourself, okay? With that being said, choose your brief wisely, and let's move on to the next lesson.